Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our Chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are using the Johnson edition. We turned out a poem 525. I think the Hemlock likes to stand. Of course, the moment that we hear the word hemlock, we are thinking about the death of Socrates in 399 BCE, and of course his drinking of hemlock. When this poem was published actually in 1890, it was titled The Hemlock, and Emily here is going to be celebrating the hemlock as being one of those plants that will stand through the cold, if you will. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 524 poems. We just finished with 524, Departed to the Judgment. If you have done that, then you know that in several of these poems already that we've been working with, Emily loves to identify with something out of nature. You'll maybe recall already that, for example, in poem 442, she talked about the north as the bringer of the Jensen, and of course associating that with herself. Here she'll talk about hemlock. She talks about the fir tree in poem 41. So you'll remember that she plays this game. She likes to say it this way: I think the hemlock likes to stand upon a marge of snow. It suits his own austerity and satisfies an awe that men must slack in wilderness and in the desert cloy, an instinct for the hoar, the bald, Lapland's necessity. The hemlock's nature thrives on cold. The gnash of northern winds is sweetest nutrient to him. His best Norwegian wines. To satin races he is not, but children on the dawn beneath his tabernacles play, and Dnieper wrestlers run. Notice here we'll have the reference from the Lapland to Finland, and we'll have the Dnieper referenced here as one of the great rivers in Russia. Now, I think here right away we should remind ourselves that hemlock was mentioned in 41, we mentioned it 291, 475. The hemlock likes to stand, so the personification here, of course, upon a marge of snow. This will take us back to our study of 442 and her celebration of the north, right? It suits his own, and I think this is the key word here, austerity, and satisfies an awe. I think Emily wants to identify with hemlock for this very word, austere, austerity. In other words, nothing troubles me. That men must slack, notice the word men here, in wilderness and in the desert, cloy, right? In other words, in the southern regions it can be hot and you can somehow survive it with a little bit of drink. An instinct for the hoar, the bald, Lapland's necessity. In other words, way north in Finland, when it gets cold, man, that's a lot harder to have to endure. The hemlock's nature thrives on cold. So there we are with the cold of the gnash of northern winds, again back to 442, is sweetest nutrient. Now, we're going to finish this going back to a study, hope is the thing with feathers, you'll remember in 254. We'll read it in a bit. But remember her use of the word sweetest there is sweetest nutrient to him. In other words, it's almost as if the hemlock seems to thrive off of the cold, the austere, his best Norwegian wines to satin races. Some have said that here she really meant to write Latin races. That is to say, those of the warmer lands, maybe thinking about, for example, something like Italy. He is not. It doesn't thrive there. But children on the dawn, beneath his tabernacles play. You'll remember tabernacles from our previous study of 524 when we read 2 Corinthians 5:1, earthly house of this tabernacle. Play, you'll remember our study of play already. 74 different poems shall use this word play. And Dnieper wrestlers run. In other words, and again, Dnieper only used once here, just like Lapland only used once here. This idea that there's something about these northern peoples that makes them tougher than those of the south, the satin races or the Latin races. if you wish to read it that way. Now, do you remember our study of 254? Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words, it never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard. I think Emily channeling something from this 254 line. And sore must be the storm that could have bashed the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land, see, that's where we are, and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. And I think this is the point she's making. The strong can survive anything. Why? Because they embrace the austere. At 2b, I love her geography references in this poem. At 3a, we just mentioned 254. Finally, at 3b, to own a poem like this, how do you stand the cold? Are you okay with the austere, the way apparently Emily tried to be at least? Thank you.